Hi, it's Katrina. You won't believe the shenanigans the CIA has been getting up to. In declassified CIA documents, things have been revealed that are so preposterous they should never have happened. Finding the Ark of the Covenant, hacking the universe with brainwaves, botched assassinations, and a lot of weird projects. Let's get into it. When the CIA tried to hack the universe. In the deepest vaults of CIA archives, right next to the files on exploding goats and robot dragonflies, there lies a declassified document so mind-bending, so cosmically weird, it makes MK Ultra look like a yoga retreat. It's called the Gateway Experience. And if you've ever wanted proof that the US government spent your tax dollars trying to Jedi mind trick reality, here it is. This gem of a report, written in 1983 by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell, lays out a plan not just to alter consciousness, but to yeet it out of space and time. The CIA didn't just want to read your mind, they wanted to launch it into the cosmic void. Stay with me here. According to McDonnell, the Gateway Experience was a method for enhancing brainwave output and syncing your brain hemispheres into one unified megabrain. That actually sounds kind of awesome. Who wouldn't want to be mega-mind without the giant head? The goal of the megabrain was to allow one to leave their body, ditch time, and access the universe's secret menu. Sign me up! In McDonnell's words, the Gateway Experience was a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude of brainwave output, so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of space and time. If that sounds like something you'd hear from a guy selling mushrooms behind a 7-Eleven, you're not wrong. But McDonnell wasn't high. He was on government payroll. Some of the stuff in the report is relatively normal. You know, things like hypnosis, meditation, biofeedback, all stuff you might pick up on Yoga Friday. These are all legit ways to relax or improve focus. Legendary filmmaker David Lynch even swore by transcendental meditation, and he seemed pretty grounded for a guy who made a film about a killer rabbit. But then the document takes a hard left into galaxy brain territory. There are notes on something called the consciousness matrix. It talks about how humans are nothing more than holograms interacting with a universal hologram. Someone got the idea that we are living in the actual Matrix and thought that someone could be woken up to their latent powers like freaking Neo. The CIA was out here trying to make their own Keanu Reeves. There are also some allusions to reincarnation. The report talks about eternal consciousness, hinting at an endless loop of reality from which your soul or consciousness can't escape. Whether they were trying to physically reincarnate people, though, there isn't any mention of that. TikTok, being TikTok, got a hold of the document and did what TikTok does best: extrapolated like crazy. One user focused on the line about consciousness being timeless and ran with it straight into reincarnation territory. Then the Daily Mail saw it and published an article claiming CIA confirms reincarnation is real. But the report doesn't really say that. The CIA appears to have been interested in consciousness beyond death, not full-blown Buddha levels of reincarnation. Despite the CIA's efforts to produce a megabrain that can alter reality, we did not end up with a legion of government-funded Professor X's projecting their astral selves into enemy bunkers. There are no secret telepaths decoding launch codes from beyond the veil. If there were, the US probably would have found bin Laden a whole lot sooner. Even McDonnell's report, dripping in cosmic swagger, never proves anything. Scientists today still don't understand how consciousness works, let alone how to fold it like origami into new dimensions. But hey, props to the CIA for trying. They shot their shot, they swung for the interdimensional fences, and while they didn't quite manifest a brainwave-fueled space wizard, they did leave behind a delightful document that we can all enjoy today. And for that, I thank the CIA. The CIA, the Psychic Spy, and the Ark of the Covenant. Once upon a very classified time, America's finest intelligence minds looked at a map of the Middle East, pointed at it, and said, "Hey, you know what we need? A psychic to find the Ark of the Covenant." And then that's what they did. They used a psychic to try and find the actual, real-life Ark of the Covenant. You know, the gold-plated, 10 Commandments holding, face-melting biblical artifact last seen being wheeled into a warehouse by the US government at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Except this wasn't a movie. It's an actual declassified report from the CIA. It discusses how they wanted to use a remote viewer, aka a psychic, to find the world's most important missing box. During the 1980s, while Reagan was telling Gorbachev to tear down that wall, the CIA was launching people's minds across the planet and occasionally to Mars via a secret psychic spy program called Project Sunstreak. And these weren't parlor tricks. This was government payroll stuff. The agency believed that some people, if trained just right, could transcend time and space to locate things like Soviet nukes, missing hostages, and in this case, one of the most sacred and terrifying religious artifacts of all time. It was just like what the CIA did by trying to hack the universe and create a mega brain, only in this case, they had a tangible goal: find artifacts on Earth. Their method to find the Ark was to give a guy a random set of coordinates and no context whatsoever, and have him mentally go there like it's Google Earth for wizards. Sounds impossible, right? If I gave you a bunch of coordinates and you concentrated hard enough, could you teleport your mind to that exact spot on the planet? I think probably not. But the CIA was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And then they kind of did. Our hero in this cosmic scavenger hunt was remote viewer number 032, a man who I imagine had both nerves of steel and absolutely no idea what he'd signed up for. When asked to describe what he saw at the given coordinates, he started talking about a mysterious container inside another container. It was made of wood, covered in gold, and adorned with 6 winged angel carvings. It was also surrounded by Arabic-speaking people and hidden underground. Damp, dark, spooky. To make matters extra juicy, remote viewer number 032 wasn't told what he was looking for. He was just told to describe what he saw. And what he saw was the stuff of Sunday school legend and Indiana Jones nightmares. So, where is the Ark now? According to the CIA document, the viewer claimed the Ark was guarded by powerful entities. Apparently, anyone who tried to open the Ark without being spiritually worthy would be destroyed by the container's protectors through the use of a power unknown to us. That's a wild thing to read in a CIA report. It basically says the Ark is being guarded by genies, and they'll vaporize you with holy plasma if you try to open it. The document strongly implies the Ark is hidden somewhere in the Middle East, possibly beneath a white-domed mosque, which was drawn by the psychic after his vision. But without an exact location or GPS pin, the US government never mounted a recovery mission. But did they really believe their psychic had seen the Ark? The report described the session as a success. But as far as I can tell, the project was abandoned. If it was a success, why abandon it? And why release the documents now to freak everyone out? If this is what they've published to the public, what are they still hiding? That's the real question. And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a huge thank you to Peggy McMillan and Jojo Mototo for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching and spending time with me today. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because we post every day. The CIA versus Fidel Castro. Forget what you know about shadowy spies, sleek black suits, and precision ops, because when the CIA went after Fidel Castro, they didn't bring James Bond. They brought the Looney Tunes. For over 5 decades, America's top intelligence agency, equipped with unlimited taxpayer dollars and an imagination fueled by Adult Swim at 3 a.m., tried to kill one man and failed spectacularly. Castro didn't just survive the CIA. He lived to the ripe old age of 90 and died of natural causes. He smoked cigars and laughed in the face of 1,000 bungled assassination plots. He once said, if surviving assassination attempts were an Olympic event, I would win the gold medal. Let's dive into the most ridiculous attempts the CIA cooked up to off El Comandante, and I'd like to start with the Great Milkshake Fiasco. You know you are deep into espionage absurdity when your plan to kill a dictator hinges on a dessert. The CIA discovered that Castro had a thing for dairy. Ice cream, milkshakes, cheese, the guy loved it all. So what did Langley's brightest come up with? Poison the milkshake. They even roped in the mafia to do it for them and handed off the poison to a spy posing as a cafe worker. Problem was, the poison capsule got stuck in the freezer, froze solid, and shattered when they tried to retrieve it. Their whole plot was ruined by basic physics. This was reportedly the closest the CIA ever got to killing Castro, but it certainly wasn't their only attempt. Aside from milkshakes, Castro also loved cigars. Naturally, the CIA tried to turn one of his cigars into a tiny bomb. In 1960, they laced a batch of his favorite smokes with enough botulinum toxin to kill a small city. And then they lost them. No one knows where those explosive cigars ended up, but they sure never made it to Castro. 2 botched attempts down and a few more to go. Castro loved scuba diving when he wasn't smoking or guzzling milkshakes, so the CIA brainstormed a plan straight out of Mission Impossible for Morons. Step 1. Rig a giant seashell with explosives. Step 2. Plant it where Castro dives. Step 3. Pray he's attracted to shiny objects like a magpie to a gold ring. It was such a dumb idea that when it came time to try it, the CIA preemptively canceled it. At least they knew it was a silly idea. Another plan involved gifting Castro a contaminated diving suit with tuberculosis in the air tank and skin-melting fungus on the fabric. I'm not making this up. It's legit. Luckily for Castro, the lawyer assigned to deliver the death suit, James Donovan, figured out something was fishy and brought him a clean one instead. Rather than slipping into a biohazard, Castro got a nice wetsuit for free from the US government. Thanks a lot, guys. And now I've come to the final boss of bonkers. According to Senate testimony, the CIA once seriously considered convincing Cubans that Castro was the Antichrist by staging the second coming of Christ. They would spread rumors about his demonic origins throughout Cuba. Then an American submarine would rise off the coast and launch glowing flares into the sky to simulate the return of Jesus Christ. The idea was that religious Cubans would rise up and overthrow Castro in the panic of Jesus coming back. It might be the most ridiculous plan anyone has ever come up with in the history of plans. And who was responsible? Edward Lansdale, a Pentagon official who clearly read Revelation one too many times. And while Lansdale denied the plot later, a CIA agent testified about it under oath. So yes, this plan existed, but no, it was never executed. And in the end, Castro laughed himself into old age and died in 2016. The CIA might just be the most incompetent assassins in the history of the business. And don't go anywhere because things are only getting weirder. New documents claim that Hitler escaped to South America. So here's a juicy nugget from the CIA's overflowing buffet of declassified what the hell were we doing here files. They seriously thought Hitler might have skipped his death and instead booked it to South America for a retirement tour. Yes, this is real. These are actual CIA files released in 2020 revealing that well into the 1950s, US intelligence was still on the hunt for Adolf, definitely dead Hitler, and they never found him, but they may have gotten close. The official story is that Hitler died in a Berlin bunker in April of 1945. However, the body was never publicly confirmed to be Hitler's. They say his dental records proved it was him, but who proved it? Where are those dental records today? The CIA was so suspicious that they started sniffing around a luxury hotel in La Falda, Argentina, run by Nazi sympathizers. These sympathizers reportedly knew Hitler personally and were the exact kind of people who would host a brunch for Nazis. The CIA never found him, but they had a gut feeling that someone knew something they weren't saying. Then, in 1954, the CIA caught wind of a photo from Colombia. It showed a man named Adolf Schrittelmeyer hanging out with a guy named Philip Citroën, a former SS officer, like it was just another Tuesday at Applebee's. Citroën claimed he met with Hitler regularly. The CIA believed the mysterious Adolf Schrittelmeyer was Hitler in disguise. They started probing, digging deeper into Schrittelmeyer's Colombian hangouts. But by November of 1955, they admitted in a memo that, and I quote, "enormous efforts could be expended on this matter with remote possibilities of establishing anything concrete." Translation, we don't know what the heck is going on. And that's kind of where the trail runs cold. Or ran cold, at least until 2024. Last year, Argentina's president, Javier Milei, ordered all documents related to Nazi fugitives hiding in Argentina after World War II to be declassified. This is a big deal because Argentina was the post-war Airbnb for Nazis. Adolf Eichmann and Joseph Mengele both found refuge there using what were known as rat lines, secret escape routes used by Nazi fugitives with help from sympathetic governments and the occasional shady priest. The idea that Hitler might have been hiding among them is not that crazy. Remember the photograph of the mysterious Adolf Schrittelmayer? I forgot to mention that in the photo, the man is wearing the iconic Hitler stash. If you were Adolf trying to disappear in South America, wouldn't that be the first thing to go? Shave it, grow a beard, wear sunglasses, something. But no, apparently this guy in the photo still had the stash. He didn't even change his first name, keeping it Adolf. Seriously though, either this guy wasn't Hitler but really loved the mustache, or he was Hitler and was so full of himself that he thought no one would dare look twice. Either way, bold move. Everyone is still waiting for the Argentine files to be declassified completely, and once they are, the lid might be blown wide open on this whole bizarre saga. And when that happens, you'll hear about it on Origins Explained. The secret history hiding in Syria. Long before Starbucks ruled every corner and GPS could guide you to the nearest taco stand, there was Tel Brak, an ancient megacity in modern-day Syria that has nothing to do with tacos or coffee. For thousands of years, this grand city sat buried in sand, secrets, and silence. Not exactly what you'd expect from what might be the world's oldest city, maybe even older than Eridu in Iraq. How did humanity overlook something this massive? Easy. Archaeologists forgot to check the CIA's Cold War spy stash. The CIA, in all its black-suited, code-named glory, ended up being the unlikely hero in an archaeological bombshell. Let's back it up a bit. During the Cold War, the US was nervously eyeballing the Soviets in Syria from above with satellites. These bad boys flew from 1960 to 1972, snapping high-res images that could spot a suspicious missile silo, or in this case, an ancient civilization. Years later, in 2007, Dr. Jesse Kasana, an anthropologist with the Smithsonian Channel, declassified those very spy photos. He zoomed in on one picture and instantly saw something huge buried under the sand. It was the city of Tel Brak, and it was huge. Prehistoric New York levels of huge. Founded way back in the 7th millennium BC, Tel Brak is 9,000 years old. Scientists suspect it ballooned into the biggest urban center in Upper Mesopotamia. It thrived, crumbled, came back like a champ, and repeated the cycle like it was on a historical hamster wheel. And did I mention it is 9,000 years old? Egypt wouldn't become a unified nation for another 4,000 years. The Ice Age had barely ended when Tel Brak became a city. By the way, Tel Brak was only a drop in the bucket. Dr. Kasana revealed that by scanning the satellite images, he and his team uncovered around 10,000 previously unknown archaeological sites across the Middle East. That is 10,000 secrets buried in the desert, chilling under the noses of archaeologists for 150 years. Makes you wonder what else the CIA has sitting in a drawer labeled top secret. Give us the goods, CIA. We want more lost cities and more conspiracies. The Cold War spy mission so top secret, it sank. Hey, remember that time the CIA teamed up with the NSA to dive into enemy territory and wiretap Soviet phone lines? No? Then you better buckle up, because Operation Ivy Bells was the kind of real-life spy drama that feels one martini away from a Bond movie, minus the tuxedos and with a lot more barnacles. From 1946 to 1991, the Cold War loomed like a passive-aggressive thundercloud over global politics. Both the US and the Soviet Union stockpiled nukes like doomsday preppers hoarding cans of peas. To prepare for the doomsday everyone feared was on the horizon, kids were drilled to duck and cover under desks as if a particle board would save them from nuclear hellfire. Meanwhile, government suits were building bunkers, and intelligence agencies were playing the world's most dangerous game of eavesdropping. In the early 1970s, US intelligence caught wind of an undersea communications cable running from Petropavlovsk to Vladivostok, a stretch of over 1,300 miles across the Soviet-controlled Sea of Okhotsk. This was Soviet turf, very illegal to enter, and also booby-trapped with underwater listening devices designed to catch sneaky intruders. The NSA didn't seem to think it was an issue. Together with the CIA, they got to work trying to bug the cables. The US government cooked up a cover story about salvaging parts from a crashed Soviet SSN-12 sandbox missile in the sea. That part of the story worked. The team pulled up over 2 million fragments from the missile and reverse engineered it for defense research, all while the covert operatives were trying to bug the deep-sea communication cable. It was a win-win. The surface team utilized their cover story to get pieces of the missile while down below, and divers installed a 20-foot wiretap device that wrapped around the secret Soviet cable. The Soviets were so confident in the cable's security, they didn't even bother encrypting their messages, which meant that every month, US divers went back, swapped out the tapes, and handed juicy Soviet intel straight to the NSA. Everything was going swimmingly until one man racked up a bit too much debt and decided to sell American secrets to the Russians. His name was Ronald Pelton, a former NSA employee fluent in Russian and fluent in being broke. Pelton racked up $65,000 in debt and filed for bankruptcy. Then he walked into the Soviet embassy in DC like it was a job interview and offered up Project Ivy Bells on a silver platter for a grand total of $5,000. The guy sold out one of the Cold War's most daring operations for less than the price of a used Honda, and it didn't even cover his debt. In 1981, Soviet ships rolled up right on top of the tap site and removed the bug. But the Americans didn't know how the Soviets found it for 4 more years. In 1985, KGB Colonel Vitaly Yurchenko defected to the US and ratted on Ronald Pelton. He was locked up for 30 years as a traitor. And get this, you can see the wiretap device today, but you'll need to go to Russia, seeing as it's on display like a trophy in the Great Patriotic War Museum in Moscow. 77,000 pages of new declassified CIA files. Okay guys, this is huge news. The CIA has dumped a ton of newly unredacted Cold War secrets. 77,000 pages of them. They are giving us a glimpse inside America's darkest political mystery, the assassination of JFK. According to Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Frederick Lodewall, the new files blow the doors wide open on what JFK's assassin was doing in the lead-up to that fateful day in Dallas. Over 2,000 documents related to the death of President John F. Kennedy were recently declassified by the Trump administration. But don't get too excited. If you were hoping for a smoking gun, a second shooter behind the grassy knoll, or Lee Harvey Oswald's secret diary with "Today I joined the CIA" scribbled inside, you're going to be disappointed. So let's unpack the madness, starting with the incident itself. On November 22, 1963, JFK was riding in a convertible through Dallas, Texas. He was waving like a rock star when shots rang out. America's president was assassinated in a brutal daylight shooting. Lee Harvey Oswald, a 24-year-old ex-Marine, was the man behind the rifle. He shot Kennedy from the 6th floor of the Texas Schoolbook Depository. He was picked up for the crime, only to be gunned down 2 days later by Jack Ruby during a jail transfer. Jack was a nightclub owner who many believe was hired by the CIA to get rid of Oswald, who was also secretly with the CIA. Of course, that's not the official story. The official narrative is that Oswald acted alone. He was a crazed gunman acting all by his lonesome. Case closed, right? Not for the 65% of Americans who, according to a 2023 Gallup poll, still believe Oswald was with the CIA. So what did these new files tell us? Was Oswald part of a CIA kill squad? Did aliens do it? Did Elvis know the plot? The newly revealed files confirm what was already suspected. Oswald visited both the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City shortly before the assassination. In fact, Oswald had spent time in the Soviet Union. He moved there in 1959, defecting and renouncing his U.S. citizenship. The files say that when Oswald returned from the Soviet Union, he was carefully monitored by surveillance teams. One CIA document, dated February 3, 1968, breaks down his time in Mexico like a twisted vacation itinerary. He was meeting with communists in Mexico. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is. Who meets with Soviets before assassinating the US president? I'll tell you who. A Soviet spy. The files also referenced reports from the 1990s claiming that Oswald may have been a terrible shot, which is wild considering he made a kill that would impress even a Call of Duty player on a Red Bull binge. These new files don't change the game, but they do reveal some weird inconsistencies that suggest Oswald was more than just a deranged killer. He appears to have been working with the Soviets. But was he also a CIA operative? The truth is still frustratingly elusive, especially since, as of his latest document drop, more than 99% of the 320,000 JFK-related documents have been released. Maybe the ultimate secrets are hiding in that 1% of documents that no one dares make public. Do you think the CIA ordered the hit on JFK? And did they use Soviet back channels and a communist hitman to do it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. The hypersonic spy plane the government swears doesn't exist. There are secrets, and then there's Aurora, the mystery aircraft that is either the US Air Force's biggest open secret or the world's most elaborate case of budgetary fan fiction. It all started in 1985 when the Los Angeles Times and Aviation Week spotted something interesting tucked inside the Air Force budget. It was a single-line item labeled Aurora, linked to secret aircraft development. And just like that, the aviation world had its white whale, a triangular-shaped Mach 6 nuclear-powered flying ghost named Aurora. When questioned, the government did its famous, "Huh? What? Never heard of it." But the eyewitnesses don't lie. In August 1989, Chris Gibson, a seasoned aircraft observer hanging out on a North Sea oil platform, saw what looked like a triangle-shaped aircraft being refueled mid-air by a KC-135 tanker. Alongside it were two F-111 bombers flying as escorts. Meanwhile, back near Area 51, people started hearing weird pulsing sounds at dawn, unlike anything they'd ever heard. Imagine a Harley-Davidson trying to break the sound barrier. That's what folks living around Area 51 described. It was enough for Aurora speculation to take off. Get it? Take off? And the rumors haven't really landed since. The Aurora aircraft is allegedly the same size as a Boeing 737. It can reach speeds of up to Mach 8 and is powered by a ramjet engine. And it can fly fast enough to dodge missiles and disappear without a trace. It's the hypersonic spy plane no one at the government will admit is real. If Aurora does exist, odds are it was born in Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin's top-secret aeronautics black site in California. It's also responsible for building the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the F-117A stealth fighter. Rumor has it Skunk Works even tested hydrogen and methane fuel in the 1990s, but those flammable ambitions might have been too spicy for real-world deployment. Still, hangars have expanded at Area 51. New runways have appeared, and sonic booms have been rattling windows in California and Texas. There seems to be some sort of highly advanced craft that the US will not admit to having. But that doesn't mean they don't have it. The next time you see something huge, triangular, and very fast in the sky, it might not be an alien. It might be a pilot behind the controls of a top-secret Aurora spy plane. The Mysterious HAARP. Deep in the frostbitten wilds of Gakona, Alaska, miles from the nearest decent Wi-Fi signal, sits a facility that looks like something a movie villain would build if he got a grant from DARPA. Rows of antennas jut up from the snow like metallic crops, beaming high-frequency radio waves into the sky for what? The government claims it's for research. A lot of other people believe it's to control the American population through brainwashing. Welcome to HAARP, the one place you definitely should be wearing a tinfoil hat to protect yourself. HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Officially, HAARP exists to study the ionosphere. Unofficially, HAARP is the government's Swiss Army knife of secret world domination tools. HAARP was founded in 1993. That's the same year Jurassic Park hit theaters. Coincidence? Probably. But HAARP's birth wasn't quite as cinematic. Funded by the US Air Force, the Navy, DARPA, and the University of Alaska Fairbanks, HAARP was set up to mess with the ionosphere in the name of science. Except that a lot of people were concerned that the US was doing something else. In 1995, Finnish MEP Elizabeth Wren raised questions in the European Parliament about the use of military resources for environmental strategies. In less convoluted terms, Elizabeth essentially raised the alarm over the US having built a giant weather gun. Rosalie Bertell, a physicist and climate activist, warned the public that HAARP is a military weapon. Nick Begich Jr., whose resume includes being the son of a congressman, claimed HAARP could trigger earthquakes, alter weather patterns, and even mess with your mind like some MK Ultra remix. And the CIA isn't even involved, at least not at the surface. I'm sure a declassified document is due any day now saying the CIA knows all about HAARP's extracurricular activities. Conspiracy theories surrounding HAARP spiraled into some freaky territory. Russian military journals warned that it could flip Earth's magnetic poles. Former Minnesota governor and human eyebrow Jesse Ventura claimed the U.S. could manipulate the weather and beam mind control rays into people's skulls. Physicist Bernard Eastlund, whose patents inspired some of HAARP's technology, said it could even shoot down satellites. But is any of this true? The scientific community has tried to debunk all of these intense theories. One of the things conspiracy theorists like to say is that HAARP's power output is massive because it is doing some voodoo-level stuff. But Stanford professor Umran Inan explained to Popular Science that HAARP's power output is microscopic compared to even a single lightning strike. There's just no truth to the rumor. Others point out that the only reason HAARP attracts this level of suspicion is that no one understands what it does. That's fair. Something about the ionosphere, but I'll admit the exact science is more than confusing. This is one of those cases where you do need to be a rocket scientist. To stem the conspiracy flood, HAARP's operators tried damage control. In 2015, they invited the public for a tour. It was a cool glimpse into the facility, but it did not stop the barrage of conspiracies. At the end of the day, should you be worried about HAARP controlling your brainwaves or unleashing earthquake death rays? I don't think so. The science doesn't support such a place, and the poles would have been flipped already, right? I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, but keep the tinfoil hat close, just in case they try to read your mind. Thanks for watching. Which CIA operation do you think was the most outrageous? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.